You're listening to the Major Pod Network, the only place where your favorite toy store, card shop, arcade, theme park, and arena are all on the same block. Scratch that major itch.
This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feast and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast presented by the Major Pod Network. I'm the man they call Johnny Clash.
And I am Mr. Anything is Feasible, George Feast, and today we are playing Virtual Pro Wrestling for the PlayStation 1. How is this game gonna hold up? Is it gonna get a play it forever? Woo! Or a future endeavor? We also discussed the GTA 6 hackers and Gotham Knights.
And don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star review for this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and follow us on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod, and check out the exclusive content we're creating for our Patreon at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. George, another week, another game. I am so ready to finally dive headfirst into the Virtual Pro Wrestling series, but this one we kinda already played, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. How you doing?
I am doing well, coming hot off the heels of Retromania last week. Love that game. So great. Such a fun episode. The introduction back into the normal format of this podcast, and looking forward to this week's game as well.
Editing it was like a whole time warp. I'm like, wait a minute, where does this sound go? What is this sound? You just go here. Oh wait, that's right. We switched the You're Fired to Stephanie. I was all thrown off. Yeah, Retromania. I think we got a lot of positive feedback on social media. Some people who have maybe not have even given the game a chance yet. Some that were skeptical. There were some that said their favorite game was WrestleFest, and they haven't touched WrestleFest since Retromania came out, so that's cool. Yeah. I think overall, this was just, like we said in the episode, a game that came out maybe a little but did all the right things to fix it and put it over the top and make it one of the best games released, at least recently.
Absolutely. 100% agree with everything that you just said about Retromania, but moving on to the next big topic that we have to talk about. When we hit 1,000 Twitter followers, we will be dropping the video game history of the man, the myth, the hardcore legend of Mick Foley. And that is all of the personalities of Mick Foley. It's Dude Love, it's Cactus Jack, it's Mankind, it's Mick Foley himself. And
so many. You might even be Mick Foley, I don't know.
Who knows? But man, we're so close. Like less than 100 away. Yeah,
934. We're almost
so
there.
Close. So if you're listening to this, you want to follow us on Twitter, you want to learn about the video game history of Mick Foley, please go check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/GameMarksPod.
That's right. Look out for new giveaways coming next month, because last week, really, we gave away a Rey Mysterio Elite Series 92, which is still unclaimed. So go back and listen to last week's episode to see if you were the winner. And also some big news coming up soon. Gameboree is starting back up November 1st, where we try to raise as much as we can for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We're going to have more info on that in the next week or two.
You know, people are already a buzz in the Discord channel and on our live stream on Twitch the other night, trying to get some information about what we may be putting together, because last year, you and I both did, every year that we do this, it gets bigger and better. But last year was especially different because we were out of our comfort zone. We had to improvise, couldn't do the things that we normally would like to do. And this year, we're just expanding because now we can. Now we have the opportunity to do it bigger, better, offer you guys a more well-rounded Gamebree experience. And of course, backing that is the raising the money for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. And can't wait to get more involved in that November 1st. But is it time, John? Are we inching on over to that diving board?
Are you inching up, George? We are ready to go. I'm ready to take the plunge back into 1996 because here is your deep dive of virtual pro wrestling, sponsored by Zavvi. Hey, George. You see this light here that says game over that I point to at the end of every single episode, like Ronda Rousey pointing to that WrestleMania sign?
I do.
Do you know where I got it?
Why don't you tell me?
I got it from Zavvi. That's us.zavvi.com, Z-A-V-V-I, and they literally have everything. I have spent hours on this website looking up Mandalorian, Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, like everything you could imagine. There's Legos, Power Rangers. You could pre-order the new Marvel Legends. It's an insane website that has literally everything pop culture. There's even Batman shoes on here.
I mean, I know for me, a little like adult Zen garden project that I like to do is like the smaller Lego sets, and Zavvi has a lot of those Lego sets on there and getting kind of itchy. So if you like all things pop culture, like John said, Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Harry Potter, Nintendo, they're even getting into the wrestling game now.
Oh yeah.
Zavvi is the place for you.
That's right. Use code GameMarks, simply just GameMarks, at checkout, and you can get 10% off.
I'm going to redo my wardrobe. Virtual Pro Wrestling, released September 13th of 1996 for the PlayStation, published by Asmik Ace Entertainment, developed by The Man Breeze, also known as AKI Corporation.
The Man Breeze. Not The Man Breeze. The Man Breeze.
The Man Breeze. Well, because you gotta, because otherwise it just sounds like it's The Man Breeze. You gotta lift that word up, otherwise it sounds like someone's breaking wind or something.
I did just have a burrito, but go on.
There we go.
Go on.
Other games in 1996, you've got New Japan Pro Wrestling, Tokon Retsuden 2, WWF In Your House, Fire Pro Wrestling, Iron Slam 96, Super Fire Pro Wrestling X Premium, and Fire Pro Wrestling S 6-Man Scramble.
All right, but before we get into this game here, we said in the beginning we kind of have already played this game.
A little bit.
It's familiar. It's the very, very beginning, the very start of the Virtual Pro Wrestling series, which is Virtual Pro Wrestling 64, etc., No Mercy, Revenge, all of the above. Here's the thing. This game was released exclusively in Japan, but it was ported to the US as WCW versus the World. It's nearly identical. If you go into both, you're getting the same art style, the same menu. There's like a slight reskin to it, and the roster's slightly different, but only slightly. Like you're getting maybe Sting in 96 versus Sting in 97 with the WCW versus the World. But I specifically remember playing versus the World growing up saying, I don't know 90% of this roster. Because you have all those little squares that you have to choose your wrestler in. And the WCW portions, like the bottom 9 or 12, it's very small. And then it's just all these people you never heard of, especially as a 12-year-old. Of course, we appreciate it more now. But it was just something that you always just picked, like Sting, Hogan, or Ric Flair, which Hogan is not in this version of the game. So
no, but Stinger's got that great
it's an older
Hogan-esque leg drop in Virtual Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, no, I'm wrong. Hogan is in here. It's just not the like fully drawn out NWO Hogan like
it's
like in Versus the World. It's still a year earlier, which means it developed a year or two even earlier than that. So this is like a 94, 95 game. We said during our playthrough, which you could find on YouTube, how weird it is to play one of these games on a PlayStation controller. Because our whole life, from Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 all the way up to No Mercy, we're used to an N64 controller here.
Yeah.
It's odd.
It's that same issue that we talked about in the middle of doing Game Wars when we played Def Jam, and it was just like the animations and the style of gameplay that you're used to here is that typical AKI THQ game, but it's a little different.
Just a little...
the controller.
Yeah. You don't realize like how much that joystick makes a difference, or even the way the A and B button are situated, where B's almost like slightly above A, but before it, like it's not A, B. It's like, it's a weird positioning where we've been playing a lot of No Mercy, obviously, a lot on Twitch, and some of them I had to use a keyboard for, which is not very easy to use an N64 controller on keyboard, but I had to use like 1 as B on the numpad and 2 as A, because you don't think about that while you're playing, but it actually makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I guess I never really gave any thought to how you made that work, but
I used to play No Mercy in high school, so so it does work. But okay, let's talk about a little bit of the gameplay here, because it is like the other games you're used to, like WCW versus NWO World Tour. It's just got a little bit less, and it's a lot slower. The moves take a significant amount of time to wind up, to hit. You have to time everything absolutely perfectly. It's not easy to just put a move on. It took us a while to even figure out how to pin, because it's the run button to pin. Who would have thought that?
Just feels like they're setting you up for failure, where you're like, I'm going to pin. Never mind, just kidding. I was actually holding a different button, and now I'm running into the corner.
But then again, look at their last game in No Mercy, where you go to pin, you're accidentally backing up.
That's also very true.
You can't pick up a weapon because now you're flipping the guy's body over. So this has been
never
obviously...
seen someone have that much trouble with the flipping of the bodies than you.
Well, if a chair's under the body, how are you going to get the chair?
I just feel like you find yourself in those kinds of situations more than anyone else.
We do a lot of concertos.
Yes, we do.
But pretty much the same HUD as WCW versus the World as we have here, where you have the spirit meter on the bottom. It just says spirit and it has a little silhouette of someone flexing, and it's actually in reverse than other games you're used to. You're not going from white to filling it up. You're actually going from red to white, and when you're flashing white, that means you have a special. Your guy automatically flexes, throws his arm up, and you're ready to go. You just do a strong grapple, and there is your move. That's it. So it's more automatic than the other games. It's not as drawn out. You're not engaging it. You're automatically in that special mode, and that's that. You can hit your special at any time after that.
Yeah, but like you mentioned before, even the specials, slow. Everything about the game is slow. I will say, I'm going to equate it to action figures. It feels like the wrestler models have more articulated points than I'm used to, or maybe they just look less blocky and connected than we're used to in other games. But like the sections of the body, like the chest is separate from the abdomen, and there's different, like, you know, the sections of the legs are broken up, and the you know, the joints in your arms and everything. When you're going into like throwing into a submission, like a single leg grab or an STF, every piece of the limb moves independently, and it just, there's like a weird, almost creepy realism to it that I was not expecting.
Well, think of the games that are out. It's before this, it's all 2D wrestling games where you're getting sprites. You're not getting these 3D animated wrestlers. You eventually get Power Move Pro Wrestling, which is very similar to this one, where all the body parts are separated. It's not until, I think, a year or two later when we get Nitro for the PlayStation, where you're finally getting a full seamless body render of an actual wrestler. So it took them a year or two to figure it out, but think about what comes after this. The Nitro and Thunder are terrible games, but they look like, the wrestlers look good. Then Attitude and Warzone, we always say how nice the skins of the wrestlers look. Even up to the SmackDown series, this is it. So It all has to start somewhere, and it starts by looking like you're a Jack Specific Ruthless Aggression figure, maybe even a Hasbro at some point, because there's just so much bulk to the body. It's very weird.
But like, there's a lot of bulk to the body, but somehow also they managed to capture the leaner wrestlers pretty decently. Like, there's definitely a different type of body style, like a body type. Like Scott Norton, Scott Steiner, Vader do not have the same body type as like Muda or Liger.
No, but Vader's also not as big as he should be.
Fair.
Which
Fair
always, point. I don't know. That was always a little weird to me how they couldn't just move the belly out a little bit, add some depth to that belly, and you're good to go. It's not as bad as the NES, Super and Nintendo Yokozuna, but we're close.
I was just saying, which was the one that we thought was the biggest offense, and it was that one.
Yeah,
it was the Yokozuna.
But okay, let's talk about the game modes in this game, because there is quite a bit here. There's a bunch you could do, so it's not just a few matches, but you do have a one-player mode where you take on different divisions. You have the Neo Strong Wrestling Division, which is New Japan, Empire Wrestling Federation, which is All Japan, U Wrestling of Universe, which is UFI, Pancrase, and Rings, Dead or Alive, which is the Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling. You have Independence, which are Michinoku Pro, International American Federation, which is WCW, and then you get the Super Junior after you beat all of the divisions and you get all of the belts. And then Super Heavyweight, where you go through the Super Junior division, and that's where you unlock the 59th out of the 60th wrestler. And then you go through it again with another wrestler, and that's how you get all that. Now, you get created belts in here. Now, they're not what they are today. You're not actually creating a belt. It's kind of just taking a template and naming it. But you are able to defend those, whether it's a memory card or locally on your game. So that's pretty cool. So you could do a versus battle, which is what me and George did, which is one player versus two players. A team battle, 5-on-5. A title match is where you defend those titles that you just won, whether it's one of the divisions or a created one. You could do title versus title, whether with a friend with another memory card or versus another champion. Or a league where you have 1 to 8 wrestlers and 1 to 8 computer wrestlers available at your leisure.
Now, league mode, title match, the team battle, these are all standard to that THQ AKI style. The Aspect Ace AKI series, these are the same modes that you see in World Tour. I'm sure that it's the same game modes that you will also see in Virtual Pro Wrestling 64. It's just that standard. These are the game modes that we've had, and it's one of those if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of situations.
Right. But are you ready to get into this rather large roster of 60? Do you want to split it? What would you like to do?
I'm happy to take the honors on this one.
Okay, take the honors. But before that, I want to talk about the actual screen where you select the roster, because this stands out to me. As I said, I played WCW versus the World as a kid, so it's one that it's along with like Nitro and Thunder where you just remember it because it's color-coded by divisions. WCW always has that bottom right corner. And then you have a picture illustrated of the wrestler with their info to the right. I always thought it was very unique, very cool. And just, we're sick of scrolling through a million wrestlers to find who we're looking for. Bring it back, guys. Bring it back. We're looking at you fight forever.
I love it. I love the style of this where it's just name, portrait, little bit of information all on one screen. That's it. Not a lot of bells and whistles.
All right. Let's get into this roster.
All right, here we go. Your roster for Virtual Pro Wrestling is Jushin Thunder Liger, Wild Pegasus, Black Tiger, Tatsumi Fujinami, Riki Choshu, Kaiju Muto, Shinya Hashimoto, Hiroshi Hase, Kensuke Sasaki, Mitsuharu Misawa, Toshiaki Kawada, Kenta Kobashi, Akira Maeda, Masakatsu Funaki, Masahiro Chono, Hiroyoshi Tenzen, Giant Baba, Jumbo Tsuruta, Akira Tao, Yoji Anjo, Minoru Suzuki, Shiro Koshinaka, Scott Norton, Stan Hansen, Gary Albright, Dr. Death Steve Williams, Volkan, Ken Shamrock, Atsushi Onita, Tarzan Goto, Hulk Hogan, Sting, Ric Flair, Kazuya Yamazaki, Yoshiaki Fujiwara, Hayabusa, Sabu, the Great... Sabu. You gotta say it like Top Shelf Troy Nelson. We're gonna be calling FWF with him soon. The Great Muda, Power Warrior, Hawk, the Great Sasuke, Super Delphin, Taka Michinoku, Jinsei Shinzaki, Ultimo Dragon, Nobuhiko Takada, Boss Rutan. Boss Rutan is in the game.
Oh, that was him then.
Genichiro, Tenryu, Koji Katao, Vader, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, and your unlockable characters: Antonio Inoki, Bruiser Brody, Carl Gotch, Terry Funk, Mil Mascaras, Dynamite Kid, Tiger Mask, and Andre the Giant.
Now I'm thinking of the secret wrestlers, and while it doesn't really do this in this game, a lot of the AKI games use where maybe you're going to go to the second outfit of wrestler, and now you're a different wrestler. Or you're hidden within a different costume of wrestler. Or think of games now, you have to have a different slot just for like Undertaker 98. Undertaker 99, Undertaker
you know how I
2000.
feel about that.
Yeah, it's just simpler times. It's like, why does everything have to be so complicated, right, Avril Lavigne?
I knew you were going to say that.
It just happened. Let's talk about the artwork here, because you're getting the big virtual pro wrestling right on that front cover with a bronze statue of a unnamed bald wrestler. Vacant. It's what?
It's vacant.
It's vacant. Yeah, vacant has made its way to this game's front cover, but this is also the same wrestler that you're getting in the opening animation of the game. So it goes hand in hand, and I think it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool cover. I like it a lot.
I also like it. It's that big thing in the 90s where everything had to have fire in the text, or it needed to look somewhat fire-esque.
I wonder why.
If only I could put my finger on it. I just don't know. But it's cool. The big logo on the front, you know exactly what it is. You may not know who the big bronze statue is referencing, but it says pro wrestling on the front. You know exactly what it is.
Right, and the back cover, if you can't get it from the front, you can get it from the back. Because
oh, John.
I'm talking about covers. I'm talking about video game covers. Oh, boy, that came out way...
It usually does.
Anyway, the back cover. Oh, God. It's got a nice nice screenshot of the roster. And then you got a picture of a brainbuster, a German suplex, a springboard move to the outside with a different camera angle, which is pretty cool. That's in here. And a nice big karate kick to the head.
Is it the kick, John?
It might be the head kick that we know from every single THQ, AKI, whatever, Ukes game going forward.
It's the Ken Shamrock kick.
The Ken Shamrock kick. It's all there. When you get to the actual PlayStation disc, it's just the same as the cover, but it's it's duotoned in grayscale and orange, like most early PlayStation games were.
I can't sum it up any better than that. I mean, that's it. The standard for back covers and how the discs look at the time, it's very, 1-to-1. You get square screenshots. You get the cover art on the disc itself. It's not a whole lot of bells and whistles back in the day. Now the expectations are a little higher, but I mean, this is standard fare for 96.
Now, were PlayStation 1 or 2 the games with the black backing? That was 1, right?
It's 1, but later gen, because I do believe that the backing is the security film that they started putting on the discs so that you couldn't rip copies of the licensed games.
So, yeah, I would try to do that all the time.
Me too.
Everyone had the stack of those, just blank CDs. My friend would give me Attitude, and I would put that in the burner and try to rip it. It would just get stuck at 99. It was just, I don't know why after like the first 2 or 3 times I would think it would happen, like work again. But you know what also never worked? The rewritable discs.
Yes.
It's just like 100%. Like, come on.
I just have this great visual of like 14-year-old Johnny Clash just going through discs left and right. Nope, 99 didn't work. Got to throw this disc away. Nope,
I still
99.
have a stack in my parents' house, like in the basement, like a stack. I'm talking like I never used them. Oh man,
just blank DVD rewritables or CDRs.
there were ways though, because once my uncle started getting me DVD copies, I remember he did copy, I think, a PS2 game, and I was like, "Oh shit, the game has changed." I was playing like GTA.
Show me your
whatever.
tricks, uncle.
Yeah, I don't know what I was playing, but there was one I definitely had that was like Sharpie drawn, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't do it very often though.
All right, so are we jumping into the actual gameplay and the game graphics and how the visual presentation of this game itself is? Because it's familiar, but
Yeah.
a little... And I guess in some cases this was the downfall of the PlayStation, where like the crispness and the sharp edges of a lot of the models in the PlayStation, you see every flaw. Where like on Nintendo, maybe things were like a little softer, a little blurry at times, maybe not as crisp. And you're like, yeah, I know that, maybe, I don't know, Stone Cold doesn't have a sharp edge on the top of his shoulder, but because I'm playing this on the N64, it kind of like rounds it out a little bit.
Yeah. Honestly, if they named this game Action Figure Fighter, it would also just...
Great.
Yeah, that's it. Looks exactly like Action Figure.
Titantron Live.
I do like the crowd. It's just kind of like in your house WrestleMania arcadey, where it's actual screenshots of a crowd and it just moves. Like, what more do you want here? It has the depth to it where it's like blacked out in the back. So I think it works great. I do think the HUD and the time on the screen is actually perfect size and it's out of the way, especially because this is PlayStation 1. You're not playing this on a widescreen TV. So we need all the space we can get. Look at Attitude and Warzone, even Nitro, how bad and just big they are. I think this is great.
I'm a little thrown off that the clock was top right. I was expecting its bottom center, which is, definitely a change from what we're used to, but I didn't mind it as much as I expected to.
The action never got in the way of it, so I didn't really mind. I only looked at it when we were in a hold or a submission, and I was like, "Oh, how long have we been going?" But it stays out of the way. It's crazy how small a HUD could be, and how little detail, but it just
know exactly
works.
what to do. Yeah,
yeah. I'm so glad 2K22 simplified theirs. Fight Forever is gonna have a simplistic one. They got just way out of hand with all those little icons and S's and F's, and you didn't know.
So ridiculous. For no reason, too. Just it got complicated for the sake of being complicated, where a lot of companies were just like, no. We've got the cooler looking HUD. Because I feel like there was a transition from the late 90s into the 2000s where people were just like, no. Bigger, brighter, more stupid, needless information that you needed to match, and then one day they were just like, "Guys, we've done too much."
Look at Here Comes the Pain and SmackDown vs. Raw; they're huge.
It's like most of the screen, but then there was a certain point where they're just like, "Guys, too much, way too much." This detail, but less.
So in this game, you can go out of the ring, and it's kind of just like a free for all out there. You don't really have the announce table or anything cool in there. I didn't see a chair or a bell or anything you can grab. The barricades are just plain blue barricades, just like the ring mat on the outside. There's no entrances. It just starts in the ring. It actually starts almost identical to WCW World Tour.
Yes.
And Revenge, where it just kind of circles in and it has the names up there, and that's it.
Yep.
Even Nitro and Thunder. Definitely a lot of the same in a lot of the games you recognize going forward. But,
very what's the word? I wanted to say familiar,
consistent?
but I feel like there's a better word. Yeah, consistent. That's the good word.
one weird part, but I guess not weird. I guess it's just the simplicity of it. I think that the menu style and the cleanliness of the menus and how nice they look regressed as the series progressed.
Yes.
I didn't need that stupid cage that was broken in No Mercy. I know you like Revenge, how the arenas and then it just zooms in. It's just so sloppy and ugly.
It was something. It was WrestleMania 2000 was
the worst.
Yes,
the worst menu there could have been with those stupid flashing, blinking words.
I think out of the four, so we're gonna say World Tour to No Mercy. I think Revenge is the best in terms of it's an okay presentation where it's not too distracting. I think World Tour is too simple. I think Revenge is like the sweet spot. I think WrestleMania 2000 is just weird and clunky and laid out poorly, and I think that No Mercy's trying too hard to be something cool.
Yeah, we thought it was cool at the time. Did
Excellent
you know
music though?
Did you know the American port WCW vs. the World was THQ's first wrestling game on the newer generation systems?
Did you know AKI stopped developing wrestling games but tweaked the games for Def Jam Vendetta, Fight for New York, and Ultimate Muscle?
Did you know virtual pro wrestling for the PlayStation 1 is on eBay from $8 to $40 used?
$40, John. You
Nope, not doing it.
You breaking out the credit card to buy this?
WCW versus the World is significantly cheaper if you want to go that route. like $3, like $3 to $7, I'd say.
Guys, if you didn't listen to that episode, one, highly recommend you seek that out in the archives. But two, just appreciate the wonderful cover art for our cover of WCW versus the World.
That was me, right?
It's you on Sting's body holding, I believe, the versus the World. It was a layup. I had to do it.
It's everything I ever dreamed of. But okay, we're gonna get a little tense here. We're gonna loosen up. We're gonna have some R&R, some ratings and reviews. Now, there's a little asterisk here, George. This is a Japanese game. There's really not a rating system for this old game. So I am going to
lean back in my chair, John. I've already committed to this.
No. I'm going to read the WCW versus the World ratings and reviews because it's pretty much the same game. You just got to take them with a little grain of salt for the roster and the time period, I guess.
Okay.
But Game Rankings gives it a 74%, All Game with a 4 out of 5 stars, EGM with a 7.75 out of 10, Famitsu 25 out of 40, Game Informer with an 8 out of 10, GameSpot 6.3 out of 10, IGN with a 6 out of 10, Joypad with a 40%, and Next Generation 2 out of 5. This is all over the place. This is good, bad, good, bad, good, bad, medium. I don't really know what to think of that because we know this is pretty much what Game Wars was based on. We know what comes after it, but we have to rate it on its own. And I'll say this, at the time playing WCW versus the World as a 12-year-old on PlayStation who probably got this game around the same time I was playing Warzone and all those, this game was hard. It was hard to figure out the controls. It was hard to play against other human characters because if they knew the game a little bit better than you, you were kind of screwed.
And that I feel like as a whole is a great summary of wrestling games, is that you can the learning curve for some of the games is pretty hard, and in most cases, once you have a very good understanding and at least have a foundation of what the controls are for the game, you could pretty much kick anyone's ass in the game. But like, it's just getting to that point where you're just like, okay, I've picked up the game, I'm learning the controls to that point where not even that you've mastered them, just to the point where you're just like, yeah, I can win a match. That's enough to change the tide.
I couldn't do it. I still picture my friend's room where we used to play this. We used to play Tony Hawk 2. We used to just run through them all. Attitude, where I used to want to watch. He had a stack of DVDs, like a DVD case when DVDs first came out with like 5 DVDs in it. It was like a Kiss live show, which I don't even think he liked Kiss. Someone probably just bought it for him. And Mission Impossible 2. And he never let me watch Mission Impossible 2, so I've never seen it because of him. But
Well,
he also
movie
had,
night coming up. Mission Impossible 2.
I've mentioned this in other episodes because I played a lot of games at this house. He had just a jar of the giant Jawbreakers. And the only way you were allowed to have one is if you beat him in either this game or Tony Hawk 2. So I was never winning this game, but eventually I got pretty damn good at Tony Hawk 2 and 3 and 4, and I got the damn Jawbreaker.
Hell yeah.
I actually have one of those in my closet downstairs because I bought them, and I ate one, and I was like, this is the worst decision I ever made in my life.
You bought the giant Jawbreaker?
Yeah. Remember the ones you used to get from the ice cream man?
Yeah, the ones that are like the softball?
Yeah.
Damn. I
I
didn't know
finished-
you could just buy those from
What do
anywhere
you think?
else.
You have to wish them?
No, I just I have never seen them anywhere
Appear.
else. I've never seen them anywhere else but a like on an ice cream truck or at like a candy store. And you only buy one every time I've ever seen it. It's just like you get one because that thing's gonna last you months.
I don't even remember where I got it. Maybe like Five Below or something.
I remember I got one at like some carnival that was local.
Oh, okay. So okay. So it's not
Carnival
just
is
the ice cream man. and the candy
It's
store.
another opportunity you get it. And
Anyway.
and my dad was so frustrated that I got it that when we came home, he was just like, "You gonna eat that thing?" I was like, "Yeah, probably." He goes, "All right, let me help you." And he took it outside, wrapped it in foil, wrapped the foil in paper bags, and then just beat the shit out
yeah.
of the thing with a hammer. And I was like, all right, this is a way better idea than what I was going to do.
We all did that. We all did that. I at least got to like almost half before using the hammer method. But anyway, we're here for one reason only.
This took a turn.
Because right now we heard from the ratings and reviews, but it is now time for our rating because it is time to rate the game.
The game!
George Feast, Virtual Pro Wrestling for the PlayStation 1. Will you play it forever or future endeavor?
You're fired!
This is a tough one. I think I'm inclined to say that this is a future endeavor, but it's just like a little clunky. It's like on the line where like I know what this could be and I'm so happy with what comes after it, but like this iteration of the game is just a little clunky and slow for me.
So it's it, future endeavor?
Future endeavored for me.
You're fired!
So I gotta say, I agree. It is clunky. It is slow. Yeah, it's not like the other. Like there's a long way to go before they get to what the games actually become. But listen, there's a lot to do here. I like the roster. I like the look and the feel of the game. Everything's like bright, and now that we've played these games our whole life, going back, it's actually pretty easy to get a handle on pretty quickly. I'm actually going to say play forever.
Oh, I want to look back.
Yeah, exactly what I'm about to do. Look back and see what we said about WCW versus the World.
If I future endeavored, if I played it forever for versus the world,
We both played it forever.
versus the world?
Yes.
Wow, I'm shocked.
Well, listen, there are actual differences in the game. I mean, a branded WCW game with a more heavily featured, updated WCW roster is very different from this game where we can't even tell who half the people are from their little illustrations.
That's very true. Yeah, I mean, I'm sticking by my my gut reaction here. It's a good game. It's on that line for me, but the slow move set and just the overall pace of the matches themselves is what makes it not as enjoyable as I had hoped that it would be. But I mean, I agree with John on everything else. There's tons of content. The roster is massive. It's just that one thing, pacing of the matches.
All right. Well, that's Virtual Pro Wrestling. George, are you ready to now enter the soft lock?
Oh, this is such a good question. All right, so the soft lock is when one of our Patreon members asked us a question, and this week the Patreon question comes from Jamie Patterson. What's going on, Soups? And Soups' question is, in Major Podcast Network, the musical, what song does your character perform? And I have an answer for both of us.
Oh, hit me with it, because I am very confused here. I very poorly perform your theme song, and you very poorly perform the Max Caster rap that closes out this podcast. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I feel like we have to throw Danger Zone in there because
that is a
you
Twitch
have to cover
favorite.
that. Our Twitch followers love that. What's like? I feel like we need to do like a duet.
Well, in my head, it's like me trying to hype you up. So this is how it played out when I read this question. Me singing your theme song is the moment where you're like maybe doubting yourself. You're at your low point in the story, and I'm talking you back up, and I was like, "Come on, John, you gotta,
But you sing it like all slow and like
yeah." And
piano.
I was like, you feel the clash. Come on, it's like that. And then I sing the whole song, and you're just like, and by the end of it, you're just like, George, I will wrestle in whatever style match you want me to, as long as you stop singing my theme song.
No, I see it now. The lights go dark. The spotlight. The fear, the clash. But then, like, it gradually gets bigger. The band kicks in and out.
Same tempo, all the double bass, but it's a little bit more melodic and like a Broadway musical.
Everyone comes out and sings with it with their arms, isn't it?
Oh, it's great. And then obviously to wrap up the entire performance, to close out the Game Marks podcast section, is the Max Caster rap, which I think that you would do very poorly, and then we have the surprise run-in by everyone's favorite Max Caster, who then finishes the rap. And that's everyone's like comic moment. But then yes, I do agree. What's our duet song though, John? Is it The Game?
Oh, Drowning Pool's the game.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Time to play the game.
No time to play. Everyone in the cast. The game. We're all just running around the stage. Oh, okay. All right, enough of this question.
That was a lot more fun than I thought that we were going to have with this question. But
I'm kind of envisioning it now.
I know.
All right, are you ready for some gaming news?
I have a horrible feeling that Broski's going to get this idea now.
Oh, no. Your gaming news sponsored by WrestleChamps, new for the iOS and Android. Rebirth Island and Fortune's Keep will be removed from the current Warzone following the release of Warzone 2.0.
I love Rebirth. I'm going to miss it.
Nah, not a Rebirth guy. Disney wants to make 2 Star Wars games a year.
Not enough.
Allegedly.
More.
More? You
Give
want
me
more?
more.
How about some quality over quantity here? Gotham Knights apparently is going to take 4 playthroughs to see the entire story, which if you think about it, that kind of makes sense because you probably want to play as each character and, change some decisions up. Now, to nobody's surprise, Google's Stadia is shutting down. In a new blog, Google revealed that Stadia hasn't gained the traction with the users that we expected. As a result, the company has made the difficult decision to begin winding down the service. Now, what did they expect? Because you're not getting like every game on this thing. You're not getting really quality games, I'll say. There's some, but not like anything sustainable against a PlayStation or an Xbox.
It's sad to see a game company shut down, especially, you know, a division of Google, which, you know, is such a huge company. But I mean, you're just getting in too late. Like, there's so many companies that have been involved in gaming for so many decades at this point that it's just like, now you're gonna start getting into gaming and expect to be like the next big thing to take over. Like, it's okay, but it still sucks to see something like that happen.
It did have Cyberpunk, it had Far Cry, Elder Scrolls, Red Dead Redemption 2, I believe, but it didn't sustain anything over the years. Like, it wasn't getting those frequent releases like everything else. But
yeah.
All right, the GTA 6 hacker. We mentioned this last week. There was a big hack there in Rockstar Games. And it's been revealed that the hacker is a 17-year-old from England. He used a phone to gain access to Rockstar's Slack channel. And he's a part of the hacker group Lapsus. And he's charged with 2 counts of breach of bail conditions and 2 counts of computer misuse. And he has pleaded not guilty to those counts of computer misuse. Now, I don't know if you're a part of a hacker group. I mean, what can you really plead not guilty to? You released a shit ton of data that shouldn't have been released.
It's pretty public knowledge, so
yeah, I don't know. Good luck with that one, bud. He's gonna probably pay a nice hefty fine there.
Oh yeah, and I feel like a couple years ago something like this happened too, where another video game leak was hacked and spread out across the internet, and there was a fairly large fine. I can't remember what it was, but I definitely remember us talking about it on this podcast.
I don't know. It didn't take long for them to find out who he was and get him. All right, your game's releasing this week. Dakar Desert Rally on October 4th. Also on October 4th, Overwatch 2. On October 5th, you're getting Deathverse Let It Die. On October 6th, Nier Automata, The End of Yarha Edition, sure. And Triple Take. And on the 7th, No Man's Sky is coming to the Switch and Superpower 3.
All right, guys. YouTube.com/GameMarksPodcast for our weekly playthrough videos, exclusive content, and more, including this and every other week's game. Patreon.com/GameMarksPod for all our ad-free episodes, bonus shows, and the world-famous Discord server where we talk about all things wrestling and beyond. John, what's going on Patreon this week?
All right. As George said, every Friday you're getting the show notes and an ad-free episode, and you can also submit your softlock question by Thursday afternoon. Tuesday, WCW versus NWO Thunder on Future Endeavored. Last week, we put out Wild's World, where he takes you through his first match at Creative Pros Wildlife. And on October 5th next week, I think, we'll get back to you. Should be our game night. Now, don't forget, on October 9th, that's this weekend coming up, FWF4 in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey. Tickets are still on sale at MajorWFPod.com. Us two, along with Top Shelf Troy Nelson, will be on commentary for the entire show. So if you don't get enough of us on this show, check it out. It's going to be a great night of action. It's going to be everyone. Matt Cardona, Brian, Chelsea Green, Rosemary, VSK. Binny SK. Yeah, Rich Swan, Justin Gabriel, Heath.
Aaron Rourke.
Aaron Rourke. It's going to be a who's who. It's going to be great. And listen, if you can't make it to Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, I'm sure Fight TV is your place to go.
Streaming on Fight TV. Very excited to be doing commentary. It's a nice change of pace because I'm going to be on a pay-per-view and I don't have to worry about you fighting a battle unless you're going to start a fight with Top Shelf Troy Nelson. That's on you, though. But it's nice to actually just be there to work.
Been there, done that, filled up my bump card real quick with that one, and I never want to do it again.
Got punched in the dick, too, so.
Yeah, no, don't. We're good.
Oh, man. All right, so So, John, would you like to hear what we are playing next week on the podcast?
Yeah, I'm like not used to us playing actual games again, but yeah, let's hear it.
Well, we're gonna kick it a little more modern. We're going from 96 to a little more recently, because we're playing WWE Battlegrounds next week on the podcast, and this is like a 2K22 light, I guess.
Very light, yeah.
Very light.
A game we had fun with for a little bit, and we'll get into all of that. So,
yeah,
cool. I like playing the modern ones.
All right. Looking forward to it. GameMarksPod.com/shop for all of our exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod for all of our new shirt designs. And Patreon.com/GameMarksPod for all of the exclusive content that you just heard John talk about at GameMarksPod in all forms of social media. And please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and leave us that was a very good one. And leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you have a product or service that you would like to advertise on this podcast, please reach out to us at GameMarksPod@gmail.com. John, that's it. 2 episodes back to the normal format. I feel like we are unstoppable. I'm ready to do commentary at FWF4. And, yeah, you're going to do that thing where you point to the sign and say your catchphrase. It's the best part of the episode.
Game over. Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.